Okay. Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Welcome to First Chapter Fridays. Um, oh no, my Instagram says it's still checking the connection. I hope we're here. It looks like YouTube is here. Um, so welcome. I'm not sure what's happening. Still says checking connection. So we're gonna hope that we're gonna go live, Instagram. Um, Please, internet, work for me, work for me. So my name is Sarah. Oh, here I am. I'm live. Yay. All right. Welcome everybody to First Chapter Fridays. We are live on YouTube and Instagram. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm Sarah K. Peters, an audiobook narrator based in Los Angeles. And today I'm reading the first chapter of Found Family by Ben Rose. Um, and so a little bit about First Chapter Fridays. This is where I do some live readings of a first chapter. These are not books that I have been cast in. These are not necessarily books that I would be cast in necessarily, but they are books written by real human indie authors, read by a real human narrator, and to spread word, get some word out about some great indie authors, to hear some of my narration. And, so that's that. I have not prepped the whole book. I've prepped the first chapter. So if I were to read the whole book, I might make different choices for characters and situations and things. But this is just a very fun exploration to get the word out and share some storytelling. So this will be about, I think, about a 15-minute read. A little water, and let's go ahead and get started. Found Family by Ben Rose. And you can find him on Instagram at @benroseauthor. Okay. Babs. Oh, before I begin, I forgot to say this. Since this is a live recording, I am not recording this for posterity. If I stumble, I might just go back and pick the sentence back up. If I just invert some words, I might just go on. Of course, if I was recording this for reals, I would stop, go back, make sure it was all perfect. So there's just some difference. Hi, John. Hi, Hetty. Oh my goodness, it's nice to see folks here. Welcome. Enjoy. Um, okay, here we go. Babs. The sky was gray wads of cotton candy growing ever darker with each passing minute. Fat flakes of snow began to fall, and the ground was cold enough, the wind bitter enough, that accumulation was inevitable. If Lance and Penny didn't return soon, Val and I would freeze to death. Or starve to death. We already had coughs that made us sound like barking seals. My body randomly tried to vomit up contents that it didn't contain. Despite the cold, Val's face was burning up. That would ease through the night. It always did. I wanted to take her to the emergency room at Mount Sinai West, but doing so would make us vulnerable. It would endanger our entire family. Val's phone was at 3% battery. Mine was dead. There was no outlet to use for recharging. Phones were one luxury our street dad, Lothario, insisted on. It was a matter of safety. I could still call 911 if Val died first, or vice versa. There'd be the issue of getting the body down from the roof of the building, or explaining to the authorities why we were up there. Neither of us was any too strong. But that's why we were always armed. Another matter of safety. Maybe Penny would bring Allie or Sunshine as well. I like them. They were both better than average at scoring a free cup of coffee from one of the bodegas by looking plaintive. I needed coffee, or some hot beverage. Cocoa would do. Tea was okay, but not really my jam. Those four, Penny, Lance, Allie, and Sonny, were with Lothario and Janine, checking out the old man's home, and the old man, to make sure things were safe. Lothario had said the man called himself Leo, short for Leonid. Val and I hadn't wanted to go until we knew the score, and now I was regretting that decision. Sort of. As a rule, and for safety, Val and I went where Lothario and our found family went. On the other hand, following others had led us into situations that appeared to be salvation at first and instead wound up being hell, especially for two young females who were a couple. There were perverts across the world who paid plenty to watch young lesbians and bisexuals perform for a camera. How could we know what this guy Leo How could we know that this guy Leo wasn't luring us in and then planning to sell us? Maybe he was connected to the men from whom we were escaping. Even if everything appeared safe to the others, I had to remain on my guard. Val depended on me as much as we both depended on Lothario. I also regretted not kiting a hoodie from one of the outdoor racks in Times Square. A few days before, Janine had grabbed a dark blue triple XL emblazoned with, "I love New York." The love is being replaced with a heart. It hung on her like a tent, but I bet she was warmer than I now. The dark blue, high-top skater shoes with broken laces almost sealed in the cold instead of warming my feet. My jeans and the thin military jacket over a t-shirt I found that read "Itty Bitty Titty Committee" did little to warm my thin frame. Another 5 minutes and I'd be able to key a car with my tits. I'd claimed the shoes in a fight with a couple of other girls from another family. The jeans and jacket were from a church giveaway. The t-shirt had been left on a park bench. That was how the family scored most of our clothing. I sat back as far as I could in the ramshackle lean-to on the roof of the apartment building overlooking the skyline. Val huddled closer to me, shivering spasmodically and chattering her teeth involuntarily. Her combat boots, a pair of dark blue corduroy overalls from that church I mentioned, and the pink long-sleeve t-shirt that she'd removed from an outdoor rack were no defense against the night air. We had one quilt between us, an old patchwork dirty cover that we'd salvaged from a dumpster and washed in a laundromat with the money we'd spanged. Drying it took more money than we had, but I convinced the manager at the desk that the dryer had shorted us. He gave us 45 minutes of free drying. That was enough. Spanging, asking passerbys for a spare change, also called panhandling, was how we usually made money. Everything any of us made went into a single purse, and Lothario and Penny decided what we could afford for food, shelter, clothes, or other basic needs. Tonight, there would be no chance of earning any money. The weather was too cold. People would be staying indoors with their families, eating roasted chestnuts and singing by the piano. Well, probably not that, but they might be eating pizza and watching TV. Or they might be baking cookies and listening to their kids tell them about their day at school. Christmas was around the corner. I had no idea what normal families did. I hadn't had a traditional family in 2 years. I had never had a normal family. There were 8 of us in our found family. A found family is a group of people not related by blood, at least not at first. Our family all bore a small scar on our right wrists where we made an incision and mingled our blood with each other. Dr. Bloberdeed, whom I once saw at a free clinic, made me my goodness, let's try again. Dr. Bloberdeed, who I once met at a free clinic, read me the riot act about the dangers involved. VD, hepatitis, AIDS, and so on. None of us had any of that, and I never considered the possibility of catching a disease by becoming blood family. The free clinic was for homeless people. They didn't ask too many questions that would endanger our situations. Emergency rooms and hospitals were a different story. All it took was one wrong word, one misunderstanding between a doctor and a patient, and police would be called. That would lead to all kinds of hassles that our family didn't need. Families like ours were established to provide ongoing mutual support, and there were dozens or more all across the city. Hundreds, or even 1,000, I imagine, across the entire country. Some were huge. Some, like ours, kept it small and close. One family might help out another or join ranks for a minute in order to mutually benefit both families. like with this bakery truck that kept parking in front of this one restaurant, and the driver would leave for 15 minutes or so to use the restroom or something. The guy driving the truck wasn't the brightest bulb, and he always unlatched the rear door, checked that nothing had fallen or shifted too much, then he'd close the door. But he never locked it. Gunner, the street dad of a family called the 420 crew, or FTK, noticed the pattern of the bakery truck driver. Gunner, his street wife, and his street kids were friendly enough with our family. We hung out in different areas, but with proper parley, we could cross each other's ground and there wouldn't be a fight. The roof and I were Val the roof where Val and I were squatting was in FTK territory. I had asked one of Gunner's boys to let him know that we were staying for the night. Word came back that we were welcome to do so. About that bakery truck, Gunner sent word that he wanted to speak with Lothario. They discussed the situation at the restaurant, and on a chosen day, all the kids tripled up and watched the streets for 3 blocks around in case the cops came by, which they did come around frequently enough. Gunner opened the back of the truck, and Lothario hauled away 10 fruit pies and 4 cakes using an old pushcart. Later, the families divvied the loot evenly. Gunner's street wife, Micah, had managed to kite 2 bottles of cognac from a store, so each family got one to split. That had been 3 days ago, and it was the last full meal I or Val had eaten. We had a quarter loaf of sliced white bread and some squirt bottle grape jelly, but that would be gone in an hour if we got desperate. I was getting desperate. Like everyone else in the world, I had what they called a family of origin. That's the blood to which one was born. My family of origin had a mother, 3 sisters, a brother, but no father. He left when I was born, just as my siblings' fathers had left when they were born. Mom kicked them out. It was easier to get assistance from the government if she was single with children. I never missed my father because I never knew him. But I did have a picture that my mother had given me. Like me, my father had a thick head of wavy black hair. His skin looked like he had a perpetual tan. So did mine. He was full-blood Hawaiian, and my mother was Irish. She was the one who named me Cassandra Babette O'Toole. Folks called me Cassie, but my street family changed it to Babs. I like the name Babs. There was a cartoon character with a teenage rabbit named Babs. She mixed yellow and purple in her clothing choices, and those were my 2 favorite colors. She was 14, and I was almost 15 when I joined the family last year. She was also intelligent, and I was no slouch academically before being kicked out of my home. I had maintained high grades in school simply by reading the books the teachers gave me. My attendance was spotty, but that was more about my mother than it was about a lack of desire to attend school. As Val snuggled closer in, her 15-year-old body seeking warmth from mine, I thought about my mother. I wasn't certain where she was or where my siblings were. They could have moved. I hadn't felt brave enough to return to our building in Paterson, New Jersey to check. Despite her many loving qualities, my mother had turned into a rabid homophobe. Oh, that's not entirely true. She spoke like a homophobe. I don't think that she actually cared one way or another, not deep down. When she learned that I was bisexual, she told me that I needed to change. She said that since I liked boys, I could just find one and then no one would ever know. We had a big blow up about that, and she told me that she wouldn't have a deviant in her home. After all, the church to which she pledged allegiance would stop helping her pay her bills if they knew. That was all she cared about. So out I went. Just like I had a picture with my father, I also had a picture of my mother. When she was my age, she was a morose-looking girl, lost in deep reflection, lips pressed together in a thin crease. She looked to hold the weight of the world on her hunched shoulders. Her blonde hair hung in ringlets, framing a peach bloom face and piercing green eyes. I had my father's hair and melanin, but I had my mother's facial features. My mouth often made the same thin line as I thought deeply about my place in the universe. I wasn't as ruggedly attractive as my father, nor as beautiful as my mother. Half-breed is what kids at school called me. A tourist I met, who was looking for a date, called me Hapahale. About that, looking for a date? It happened plenty. Sometimes I accepted if there was immediate need for extra cash. Yeah, I could take a guy into an alley, or sometimes he'd have a room somewhere. It only took 20 minutes, and I'd make $50. I didn't let them put it in me, though. Everything else was fair game. But most of the guys just wanted oral anyways. I hated myself for doing that. But there was no way around it when money was tight. Some men, some men and women made online videos. We all had been involved with making those, except Allie and Penny. Making the videos took much longer than 20 minutes. And I was never certain that people I knew wouldn't come across them. I thought about that and felt sick each time. I hoped that this old man, Leo, wasn't part of that business or any other sordid affairs. My thoughts drifted back to the cold air surrounding me and Val. I patted the crowbar in my backpack, the cat's eye brass knuckles in my pocket, and the steak knife and switchblade in my other pocket as I dozed off. My stomach was scrunching into a tight ball. My spit tasted sour and acidic. I had a headache, and as cold as I was, my face began to feel like it was burning. Something had to give. Had to, or I was going to die. And quite frankly, I wasn't altogether certain that my death would be that much of a loss. That's the end of the first chapter of Found Family by Ben Rose, author. So you can find him and his work online at Ben Rose Author, benrose.com, benroseauthor.com. And I'm going to put a link in the comments where you can find his books on Barnes and Nobles and things. So I hope if this story interests you, look for his books. Oh, thank you. Thank you for listening, everybody. Hi, George. Hi, honey. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for listening. It's always much more fun. And oh, Ben, are you there? Oh, good. Ben's on YouTube. Yay. Um, yay. I'm so glad you got to hear it. It's very exciting when I have a live audience. And these will be posted. It'll be up on my YouTube channel, Sarah K. Peters narrator, and it will be up on. Hi, Isaac. You're just coming right at the end, Isaac. I just finished up, and I'm going to post this. I'll post this on Instagram as well, so you can see the whole thing if you want to. I'll be back again next Friday. I had to take a little hiatus due to deadlines and health reasons, but I should be back again to doing weekly throughout the month of August. So hopefully I will see you again here next Friday. I will try to post my times to make sure we have the consistent time by Wednesday. And thank you all for joining. Yay! Bye. Oh, I know. And then I have to figure out how to end. That's always the hard part.